Okay.
I kind of think that when if you organization has 3,000 people, you have to have all this, and you cannot all 3,000 go out to beg for food.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
You have to
institutionalize it. Yeah. But as I say, that's the reason why actually in India we look at all other religions, they don't have that. I mean, we are talking about even in earlier time before Christ, 600 years, and they don't have, even in Jainism. Jainism actually as the religious, even you look at the history, they're earlier than Buddhism. Since they don't have this institutionalization, even now, even they still exist as a Jainism, but there are a lot of scriptures have been lost, and their whole tradition completely almost gone. And when I say tradition, I mean like, at least Buddhism, even though might be a lot of things lost, but scriptures still somehow remain. But the Jainism is big more, and they never have an institution like a Buddhism. The Buddhism, at least they have a university later on, and they have a big monastery, try to retain all this source. So it depends how you look at it. So, yeah.
It seems like it's coming back. I know some people who practice Jainism around here, and they're trying to get their community strong again.
Yeah, the community is strong again, but it depends how you look at it, because I also study a little bit like a Jain scripture, but there are lots of scripture you have no way to find it anymore. So, I mean, of course, that's a long history. One thing is about India was colonized by Muslims for 800 something years. So there are lots of things stay inactive, I would say, if they want to survive in some way. Depends how you look at it, but I just want to say, even though Buddhism was completely destroyed in India by that time, because their institutionalization is too strong, and this is another argument, why the religion in India, as a Buddhism as one of the religion in India at that time, but during the Muslim colonization, but then completely destroyed the whole Buddhism, because the one reason is because the Buddhist institution is too strong.
Big target.
So like just now mentioned the Nalanda, who hosts like 300 students to study there. I've been there also to the sites. That imagine that like, if you look at the historic record of the university called, they are not only learning Buddhism, they learn all type of things like medicine, all type of religion like in India. Definitely Buddhism is one of the main subjects. But then they destroy because when you look at the history, when the invasion during that time, the Nalanda was burned for 3 months. The scripture for 3 months burning. So, and everything was burned. So, but another thing is that that's what I mean by the way that Buddhism certainly changed a lot of idealism from early during the Buddha's time to later. But then also, because of that reason, we can collect a lot of things. And then that's why a lot of foreign monks who study like Xianzhan, and he carried the text back to China. Even though a lot of Sanskrit texts been burned, or the original language, like the hybrid language of India, been burned, but at least some are translated into Chinese or into Tibetan and so forth. Yeah.
May I ask a question of contemporary relevance? There are religious tensions in the world that go back thousands of years.
Yeah.
What is the Buddhism take on the fact that the Muslims came in and destroyed the Buddhist institutions?
I mean, it's very funny enough. I mean, look, just say first thing. One thing is that even, firstly, it's very different from other religions. Buddhism even sometimes do not like to talk about that. Like, they don't tell people actually Buddhism completely destroyed is because of Muslim. You could say that way. Even from Central Asia, like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and also many like Kazakhstan, actually they used to be Buddhist land. Same as like China nowadays, Xinjiang, and they all are Buddhist. Actually, early Chinese Buddhism was not really directly from India. It's directly from Xinjiang, from Afghanistan, rather than really India. You know, but that's the reason why one of the Chinese monks called Xianzhan is very famous. He knew that we cannot just study Buddhism only under this, like, not really original from India. That's why he really had to go to India. But a lot of Chinese people don't know. They always think, oh, we have a best, but not necessarily. They might have a lot of mixed things. It's fine. But what I want to say that is the funny enough, it's very different from the Chinese community. I mean, the Buddhist community. Buddhist community do not talk about that, because I've been to like different community, like other religious community. You could see that they always like to talk. We've been persecuted. We've been but in the Buddhism, normally do not address that issue. Very few Chinese or very few Buddhists know actually the historical Buddhism destroyed is by other religion too, because then you could see the attitude is very different. And the second, even though maybe we realize that, I mean, like people who study in scholarly or like reading really book, very few book write about that, because we do not do propaganda. Oh, you know, you should hate the other because the other will destroy you in the history. We don't have this kind of education, or you could say this kind of attitude. So even though we know, then we only analyzing what's the problem of Buddhism, why they've been persecuted. Where rather than condemning the other, that how they been destroyed, the whole Buddhist culture in the past. I mean, I could only answer you this way. Even like last time I was representing kind of like one of the Buddhism in East Coast, you know, to Turkey, to have a dialogue with the Imam. But it's very funny. I do not think that we really have dialogue. It looks like they like to talk their politics. They are not really interested to know what we are thinking. And maybe we want to know what they are thinking, but not necessarily they were really interested to know what we are thinking. So of course, that was the first time in the history that they really have a dialogue between the Muslim and the Buddhist. Because of course they had lots of dialogue between Christian and the Judaism, but not necessarily, you know, with the Buddhist. But then what we face is always a question: why now the Buddhist monk, like nowadays the most hot topic is about in Burma, that they believe in a certain area that is the Burmese, because not the Burmese are killing them, that's for sure, but it's because the Burmese are encouraged, kind of like, you know, not discouraged, that then the people there, they kill a lot of Muslim in a certain border of area in Burma. They always ask me this question. And but one thing I think, but do you also know? I know this is a historical thing. Actually, even have you ever learned from the Muslim history that actually the Muslim even start from almost 11th century. Then you write about all the Buddhism until to India. How many continental there? From the whole Central Asia to India, and then especially the South India, of course, they have fight against the Hindu, fight against the Buddhism already. So they destroyed that in earlier time. But then the whole half of India, the whole. But we definitely have archaeological evidence. It's because the whole of any archaeological place in India, the Buddhism, the heart is cut off, the Buddha heart, and everything is gone. So, and only thing that we found now archaeology, which is always have a full piece of it, is because either we suspect during the time they knew that they are going to destroy the Kawe by the soil, or because of volcanoid Kawe. Otherwise, all the Buddhist site completely gone. So, you know. So anyway, that's how the Buddhist attitude in general, because still we are talking about maybe love and compassion. We do not want to stir up this thinking that so-called the Buddhist culture been what, and then we need to retaliate. I'm not here to say which is the best way or what, but I just want to say that's how the general idea. But I do call one other awareness is, unfortunately, even all these things will happen. The China might know about that, but the Buddhism is very interesting. They never really become a very powerful force as a political force. It did in Japan and in Sri Lanka. For example, in Japan, nowadays there has one of the very famous movie called Silence. It was about the Catholic priests who go to Japan. I didn't see the movie, but I somehow knew only a little bit introduction. Then I knew, because I know something about history, so I guess. So of course, they want to try to propagate in the Catholicism, but then, you know, then jealous by the Buddhist monk there too, and then pursuing this kind of like the samurai, and kind of like persecute this kind of Catholic mission. So that's why, even though historically some people say the Buddhism never raised a war, but some people actually still dislike Buddhism and saying that you did, because in Japan you did that. But actually, that was not totally wrong in a way, because that had much to do with that's true. Buddhism came to Japan from China. Actually, it's very funny. Japan never learned Buddhism from India. Always learn from China only. So they never know what is Indian Buddhism. They only know the Buddhism from China. So, you know, there were some other pictures, maybe, like now you have to learn, at least you have to learn how original form of Buddhism. There maybe you change because whatever, blah, blah, blah. But they never learn that. They only learn the formality, like the palace formality in Chinese Buddhism, and came to Japan. And in Japan also the historical is that because the samurai, it's, you know, because the monk had to base on the people's support. And you have to understand the Japan culture. The samurai is what? Samurai is kind of like the clan in Scotland. The clan, right? I'm this clan and you're that clan. And then every clan have their own warriors. And then so the monks actually are basically based on kind of like, the monks have to depend on the clans to live, right? And of course, for sure, it's when you might have a certain monk, you know, they learn from China, whatever, and then they saw that somebody have a different mission and they do not like out of jealousy, whatever it happened, right? But then, and also the samurai, actually, if you look at history, not necessarily because of monk power, is because the clan will find these kind of people come here in our clan, it will be harm our clan because, you know, our big family will be
fragmented or something.
Yeah. And then, so sometimes the movie portray in a wrong way, I think. It's true. The monk also agree with them to do that. I mean, that's what do you surprised by in ancient times, right? But it's not the Buddhist Institute itself raised this war, you know. You know, and then the other history is the Sri Lanka too. The Sri Lanka even now are very kind of especially after the British colonization, and then of course Sri Lanka also they learn from thinking that because in the past they did not know what the intention of the other people who came here. They always very friendly. Oh, you are the foreigners, so we should be friendly with you. But they never know. Then they would turn out aside, and then they would try to destroy the culture and their what. So nowadays, maybe in Sri Lanka, you have so-called anti-colonizations. This idea, but actually they have this in the past also because Sri Lanka as an island always facing the problem of the South India. South India is called the Tamil people. Where Sri Lanka people and the Tamil people from the long time, okay, so much they never agree with. Of course, for Chinese people, they cannot separate. They think they look the same. But I can see definitely don't look the same, okay? Like the Irish and the British people always, if you say the English people or the Irish people like that. Anyway, but they don't look the same. But anyway, so the thing it is that, and the Tamil is almost like, as a religion, they always think they are the Hindu. And they believe they are the original people. Okay. The so-called whiter people on the north of India are actually the Aryan people, right? They originally, you could say, came from the Europe, East Europe especially. They came there. So then they mixed up with the local people from a long history. So, and this kind of so-called Tamil people as the very dark skin comparatively. I don't mean they all are like that, but comparatively. So they actually been persecuted, kind of like suppressed, and that's why they moved down to the south. And this is how they believe. And look at the language system. Tamil language is totally different from the Indian Sanskrit and all Pali and all sort of so-called Northern Indian language. Anyway, these people always think Sri Lanka is their land. And Sri Lanka from the before Christ, 300 years, is been a Buddhist land already. But unfortunately, in this Tamil people will think Sri Lanka is their kind of like in their culture, in their poem, always think Sri Lanka is the pearl of the land, kind of like paradise. You know, even they never reached there, but they always thought there was a Sri Lanka. Now that's why in the history, as a religion, they are the Hindu, but Sri Lanka from 300 years before Christ, 300 years they were the Buddhists. So of course they always want to take the Sri Lanka, and the Sri Lanka always defend. But then at that time, definitely the Buddhism also, especially they were one time during the 1st century, and then before 1st century, about to be a 1st century, and then the Buddhism was completely lost against the war between them. And then the monk was scared away. Actually, all monks would be killed like that. That's the reason why I want to say that then since then, the Buddhism in Sri Lanka is very different from what we notice Buddhism in a way is always support that the king to defend the country. But of course, that's another controversial. And some, even including my friend who he still is a British, and he's specialized, I would say, depending on what you mean by that, always trying to raise this kind of questions, saying the monks are even somewhat violent. But I was thinking, depends, have you ever lived in the country? Everyone do not like their culture being lost or their religion be lost. If anything that, that's for sure, and this is not just one or two people. It is actually, it's even a monk itself, for the number of the monks is more than 10,000 monks, or maybe even 100,000 monks sometimes it would come. And let alone to say the lay people, even the so-called people who have that profession already. So, but for such a big amount of people who like to be, what they learn to be completely wiped off, there's no way. Then, of course, then even Buddhism will talk about non-violence. Definitely we believe that we do not conquer the other, we do not go to kill and you have to believe in Buddhism. But when the people trying to threaten your life that you have to completely give up your religion or even a life as a religion like a monk, what kind of reaction you would be, Anyway, that's another thing. But I want to say that historically what I want to say actually to give up all this information to say it's true if you want to point it up that Buddhism did have a kind of violence in a certain way with regard to connection to the war. That will be only these two cases. But for sure, even these two cases, none of them are going out to conquer the other. So, yeah. Does it make it clear?
I think in the next
okay.
chapter, the next section,
Oh, we do that.
have that.
We do have that. Thank you for your saying. Otherwise,
Page 101, you have
okay. We
Wow.
Sri Lanka,
okay.
Sri Lanka story and part of Japan story.
Yeah. I forgot that already. Okay. All right. But then I think so far we must understand. So here we start to mention there were different type of the monastery already, and then even they might have a different type of monks. Okay. All right. Why don't we just go to? Then we know that there's a kapiya. Okay. You must know the jin. Why do we have the kapiya? Because traditionally the monks do not hand in the money. So all these things were done by the kapiya, okay? Even now, actually, some temple in the Theravada tradition, not necessarily in America now, you can have credit card and check, But the cash, I'm just joking. So, PayPal, even you don't have to worry about that. Maybe next time you say, I do not hold the money, so what you have to do, only do done by PayPal, okay?
I've got some Bitcoin.
Okay, yeah, so. Anyway, but in old days was all about gold and silver because they had to go to gold and silver, and use that. And that's why some people argue now even the money is not made of gold and silver, so it's a paper. It's out of paper. The virtue is the same because I as I say, it's funny part is it's a true story that one of my Singaporean friends is a monk. He went to in Indonesia. And then when he saw the Indonesia temple was really poor and like a lack of money, donation. So he thought, okay, he's a Chinese monk. He thought, okay, I'm going to give you a big money. So he asked the abbot to come out and saying that he's going to make a big money. It's not like a small money. So that you need somebody important to know that number. So the monk, of course, very happy. Of course, nobody will deny that. And then the abbot came out. Then he said, I'm going to donate you this kind of amount of money. For Indonesia in those days, it was a huge thing. And then he told me he was really happy. And he said, just give me a second. I'm going to call a kapiya, to come to hold that money. Usually the temple, they will have somebody who work there as a kapiya and cleaning and taking care of some other thing and holding the money. But unfortunately, there's a loophole there also. The kapiya sometimes can be very evil. Anyway, that's another story. Okay. So you could see this human nature. But anyway, so and then he was just about to call, and the monk remind him, you don't have to call the kapia because I'm going to give you in check. He said, oh, check, no problem, I can handle it. I remember he asked me this question because I was ordained in Sri Lanka, and we are back to 20 years ago. And then he asked me a question. He said that, this is how you learn the Vinaya? That when you're holding the check, it's not offense, that you're not against the rule for holding the money, and I know, yeah. Then I just make a joke. I say, yeah, of course, because no, in those days, credit card is not that popular, especially I mean, even though they have credit card, but even though the temple, how can they accept credit card in Indonesia? I mean, 20 years ago. I mean, now of course maybe it's different
square,
now.
Right?
Huh?
With square.
Okay, now why don't we just go? I think it's very important to know how many type of monk now in general. So we are coming to the page 98. I mean, since you don't have page, I don't know. We are under the same subtitle, but it begins with in the context of developed Buddhist monasticism. Could you find that? Yeah.
Okay. In the context of developed Buddhist monasticism, dwelling in the forest.
After what we read, the next paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Dwelling in the forest or wearing robes made of rocks from a dust heaps becomes two of a set of 12 or 13 specialized ascetic practices.
Dutanga, yeah.
Or Dutanga. That an individual monk might undertake for a shorter or longer period. These forest dwelling, aranika, or rock robe wearing,
Pansukurika
monk are contrasted with the town dwelling Gamavasin monk. Although the number of forest monks may have been relatively small, their strict practice meant that they attracted the support of the laity and they enjoy considerable prestige and influence. Ironically, this meant that they did not always succeed in maintaining their ascetic practice and that in ancient Sri Lanka, for example, monks belonging to normally Aranika or
Pansukurika
groups did not necessarily dwell in the forest or wear rock robes. The tendency of the laity to direct their special gifts and particular devotion towards monks whose lifestyle approximates most closely to the traditional ascetic ideal at once invests them with power and threatens to undermine the basis of that power. Their monastic establishments become the most prosperous, and as a consequence, their ascetic tradition was most in danger of being compromised. Yet, the ideal of the wanderer intent on the Buddhist monk's traditional spiritual quest continue to be seen as embodied in the forest dwelling or rock robe wearing monks, and the periodic attempt to re-establish the ancient ascetic ideal is one of the defining features of the history of Buddhist monasticism. But as the following story illustrates, it is the spirit of the ancient ideal that inspires the tradition, not the letter.
All right. So I think generally you must understand when you say the monk, then you have the Dudanga monk, just a total in Chinese. And the Dudanga monk is not necessarily they have to follow the whole life, but they could follow the short period or even have a longer period. And anyone heard about a Dudanga monk? Generally mean like a monk, they vow they only eat one meal a day, no breakfast. That included no breakfast. And once they have the meal, once they get the meal, they don't stand up to get the meal again. They will just one sit, those are called one sit. So they have, some people say, sometimes they say they have 10 rules, not only the Vinaya rules, but beside the Vinaya rules, they were adding something, the rules they need to follow. The most famous one is that they don't lie. They always sit. Even they sleep, they always sit. So they don't lie. They don't lie down. They always just sit. So that's the most famous one people know. And then the Dudanga monk, another thing which is difficult in general, means they they are not allowed to stay in any family house, not in a household house. Say that, in Vinaya rule actually, if you want to stay in a household allowed, like say that if I come to a place and I don't have a place to stay, then I may stay in your house, but I don't stay for more than a week, right? But if you follow Dudanga rule, you don't even stay all night. You don't stay at any household alive. So what you have to stay on the outside or in a cave or under the tree, okay? That's the Dudanga rules. And then the another kind of like the so-called forest dwelling, Aranyaka, mean they are what we call the forest monk. 那么就是阿兰若和尚. So a forest monk mostly, of course, not necessarily mean by they stay in the forest, but definitely their kuti or what their practice place is always in the forest. Okay, when I say forest, I don't mean they really have a deep forest, but somehow not only in the city. That's what I mean by the forest monk. And then you have this called the Bansu Kulika, but this is nowadays very hard to find now. I guess it's due to the modern society. Because Bansu Kulika actually is the monk that you wear the robe. Let me take this off. This is a robe, This is called the kasawa. It's not called, we have the term for the robe. This is called the kasawa, but this is, what is the other term?
Jasa.
No, kasawa is jasa. Another term, jivara. Okay, another one is called jivara. So usually jivara has much to do with the pansuka. Pansuka means, the jivaras mean, this robe is clear for you. It is made nowadays by company. But you could say they make well. It's not like you get it from outside and then you have a lot of piece of cloth and then you just try to, sew it or sew it into one piece of cloth, right? So for example, you could see the rope here, we have like the line. This is supposed to be like many different type of the cloth and sew it together. So this is one same type of rope, the material. But so-called jivara, or especially the bansuka, it's that you have to wear the robe. Now, in old day, now changed too, but in old day, it means that the robe is not made from one piece of cloth. Okay, it's all made from different kind of cloth. But nowadays, to represent the pansuka is very funny. If you have a little patch, mean by pansuka,
Show off.
I don't want to say anything, but sometimes the monk, some monks are really sincere about that, but then what they do is that they make the clothes look very old and then have a patch. Many type of things happen in the world. Anyway,
It sounds like buying those ripped jeans at the
it's true. Yeah, like that. No, but you cannot have a hole. That's wrong. You need to patch it. Okay. No, you cannot. According to rule, you cannot have a hole because your hole means you are not attending your rope well. You need to patch it.
So you need to damage it and repair it.
Yeah. No, I know that people do that. I don't want to say too much. I know this is online. Sometimes maybe people will criticize me, but
So
I'm just saying.
Not only the ropes and the beads too.
I show you nothing. Anyway, another thing is called the town dwelling, the Gama washing. The town dwelling generally means they live in a town. But please do not misunderstood also. The town dwelling means in a democratic way, never. Because actually, if you look at according to the Buddha's advice, how the monastery should be built, the monastery in old day, the monastery has to be built far away. In those they call li, the way they calculate, maybe about 5 miles or 10, not more than 10 miles nowadays from the busy area. Because that's how the Buddhist idea. Then generally monks have to live in the monastery have to build maybe not too far away from really the city also. But definitely not encouraging the city in old day, because it's not quite enough,
Is that,
yes.
is that for accessibility?
Yeah, for accessibility, people could learn something from, from the monastery. Monk, and also, then the monk would not having difficulty to find the food, to sustain and so forth. And so they could just really be content in their practice. So now at least you must know, and in tradition, so there are few type of monks, okay, have a particular, so don't be strange, don't be feel very weird. One day you go other place, you saw. Nowadays, if you want to earn in modern time, nowadays if you see the robe, if I used to wear the robe not this color, very dark color. normally believe that when you wear the robe is more darker color, mean you are the Aranya monk, mean you are the forest monk. Not necessarily you stay in the forest now, but you are kind more like freestyle, no possession. Even you may have, but not a big possession, kind of like that. And like we say, the Bansukura monk mean you have patch and patch and patch. Supposed to be, but you usually should be no more weary, like we have an image kind of little bit untidy, kind of like that. So called a Bansukura, because usually the Bansukura monk, it's that they have to practice more begging food. The forest monk not necessarily have to do that, but you know that the Bansukura monk definitely have to beg in the food and you know and so forth. And Dudanga, of course, is nowadays very hard to find now. Dudanga, for sure, have to stay in the forest or in a cave, as I just mentioned. And then, even though nowadays people say, I'm practice Dudanga, I don't sleep. I say, that's not Dudanga. Because Dudanga, you don't stay in the house. No, you don't stay in the, unless for certain reason, you stay in the temple. Otherwise, you don't even stay in the temple. You are not allowed to stay in the temple more than 3 days, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Those are called 就是头陀行, Dudanga. Okay?
So in reality, how many different kinds of monks?
Now, actually, nowadays we divide the monk in different categories. Whether you are chanting monk, meditate monk, scholar monk, or just eating monk, you know. It's very different now. It's the categories is always change. And I'm saying this is not in a derogatory way, but it just you have to understand any religion is the same thing. Sometimes when lots of people there already, and then it could develop in a different, you know, human nature. But then, of course, now. Especially in the Chinese system, they do not divide much about on this way. But in Theravada, what I just mentioned nowadays is the same. But then maybe still you have adding up, you have the Bansukura monk, and then you have the so-called Gami-Wasing. That's when we say that like a village or the forest dweller monk also. Yeah. But still, you know, traditionally people respect to the forest dwelling monk. And also among the Buddhism, not necessarily they all agree with the Dudanga. Because Dudanga actually, we know the history, everybody, mostly the monk know that Dudanga actually not originally came from Buddhism. It originally came from the really strict asceticism in India. But then since during the Buddha's time, a lot of these so-called strict, of course this strict asceticism, they really have determination, right? And they stay for asceticism for a long time. But then different is they did not have the really good teachings. So it's believed that that's why they could not reach enlightenment. But then once they learn the Buddhism, they reach enlightenment. So the way of life get used to already, that they stay in the forest or under the tree and cave. And all those things also actually is a show very big deal of detachment too. So that's why the Buddhism never condemned that. And that's why it passed down, even though it was not original from Buddhist tradition. Yeah. Okay.
I understand that
yeah. Kashyapa is a Dudanga. Yeah. However, you know, like that, I'm sure if Kashyapa now in the modern time, I guess nobody would ask him to be the big brother. We would choose some other monk. But it's a culture different in those times in India. Kashyapa, not only he's older, and not only because he was really follow the Buddha earlier time. And for example, Ananda, you know, it could be definitely, if in the modern time, people would pick Ananda as the head. But then that time when the Buddha passed away, not as a head, not that he was successor Buddha. Priests do not understand Buddhism, do not have the succession idea. It just, somebody had to be at least, when there's a conflict, somebody had to be like, I would say, you know, which is right or which is wrong, or what side we have to follow. So, and then they were, it said that anonymously, I don't know whether it's true, but anyway, that they would think Kashyapa would be the correct person. He's Dudanga. But everybody knows he doesn't have much disciple follow him. But it's too difficult to live with him. Because lifestyle is so difficult. Okay.
It's very strict.
Yeah, very, very strict and lifestyle. Still somehow, in those days in Indian cultures, they praise that. You know? Yeah. All right, and then I guess we are supposed to have a break, but we didn't. Well, and we don't have time to have breaks. Looks like we have 15 minutes only. Do you want to have a break?
No.
No, it's okay, right? I thought we can finish this chapter. Looks like no. Can we just finish chapter, just say a few things, and then you can ask questions? All right. And then if we look at the page 101, under the category, under the subtitle of Spiritual Life, the Practice of Meditative Actions. Okay. Actually, this is it's mostly, this is related to the lay persons. Lay as a very important community also, you know. When you say the Buddhist community, you are saying the monks and nuns community, and then the lay, and the lay woman and layman community. And then actually it's understood that as a lay persons, not like as a monks or nuns or monastic members, that their aim is to gain enlightenment, you know, when they follow the orders. But the lay person actually to support the monastic, of course, they need to, what they need to gain, supposedly not the enlightenment as a priority, but the merits as their priority. And this is how the Buddhists kind of the system to put this layperson and the monks together. For example, like in Thailand now, in Sri Lanka, or this the so-called Theravada country, even in Chinese too, even though somehow Chinese is very hard to talk about, a little complicated. But in general, it's believed that why you want to support the monks and nuns, because why you want to support the monastic community, it's because that by supporting that you will gain merits. Okay, that's what the lay is about. And of course, because and then when we say the merits is that how the merits comes about, it's because you do dana, and you do sila, and you do bhavana. Okay, the dana is a very popular term. And also maybe mostly the lay people are practicing. That means offering, generosity. Maybe they offer money, they offer food, they offer place, they offer everything. That's one thing, just 布施嘛. So that's the lay. And the second is that they also get marriage not just by generosity, but they also have ethical conduct. Mean they observe the ethical code. You know, like according to the Buddhist tradition, mean they observe the 5 as a principle. Ethical not to kill, basically not to kill here refer to human and the big thing, like big animals. And then not to steal, right? And then not to commit sexual misconduct, like you agree with the spouse, but then you do not have sex activity with other people without the agreement from your spouse. And then also and on to not having these things under protection age also and so forth. And this actually even during 2,000 years ago it was promulgated as a rule. And the other thing is not to lie. In other words, mean to be honest to yourself. And the last one is that not taking any drug or anything that will intoxicate your mind, so that you will not be able to stay focused. And this kind of thing. There were 5 rules. And the other one, that how to get married, is by meditation, bhavana. Okay. So the lay people are having this kind of how to get married, be generous, and also observing the virtue, and also doing meditation, the 3 things. Okay. And this is what we call, especially if you can offer to the monastic sangha, and the sangha, if the sangha is a really highly attended, very highly achieved in the spirituality, is believed that then the Futian and then the Punya Sekstra, they're here and there, mean the fewer married will become rich. So it's almost like when you have good soil, when you have planted good thing, good soil, so your paddy field, your rice will become much better, in quality like that. Okay, that's what generally in ancient time, during the Buddhist time, that was how the between this lay person and the monk relationship. Okay. Let me see. Any other thing what we need to say is, and then also of course then we must understand, and even though the lay are like that, but the monk also later on, especially in the more modern time, and then the monastic member, then you have divided into a kind of people who are practicing the meditation like the vipassana, but inside meditation, that's what we call the vipassana dura. And then also the monk actually do more like scholarly study. That's what we call Ganta Dura. Okay. And in other words, generally we understand as the monk in the two types. Monk is a learning monk, or you are the meditative monk. Okay. But this is so funny in nowadays even. So this so-called the learning monk and the meditative monk are sometimes, I don't know why, I do not agree, but that become a kind of society or a Buddhist society is that they always want to separate these two. So a learning monk, because in tradition, the monk, when they become a monk when they're a kid, they always send to the school to study. So, and then, and the meditative monk also, usually they, of course, when they were small, as a kid, they study, but when you come to adult life, like after 21 years old, maybe 27 to 30 years old, then they just stop studying. They don't do anything, but they would just want to do meditation. So, but doing meditation, they can be either the forest monk or either even actually Gamin Wasi, in the monk who are in the town. So it changed now. Okay.
Perhaps I should just know, but I don't. What kind of monk would you describe yourself as?
I'm both. I'm a little both. I don't like to say that because I say that it sounds a little bit strange, but this is what people find me very interesting also, because I really value a lot of academic, and at the same time I really teach a lot of meditation. I think if without meditation, then everything is zero to me, to my idea. But if you are in tradition, when I say tradition, nowadays, when you are the study monk, sometimes not necessarily you are thinking meditation is so important. And they might be even somehow included meditation as part of study. They believe that when you study well, it's a meditation. I'm talking about this as a fact of nowadays. And then, unfortunately, even then, another type of thing is that when you are the so-called meditative monk, sometimes they always like to address you, do not study, because study will help helpless, and it doesn't give you. So it becomes kind of like a dichotomy of the two, which I, from a very beginning, I never agree. Because, however, it's funny enough, everyone know, those who are meditative monks also know, if you study in the correct way, you definitely it's very helpful for your meditation. But then somehow, what I want to put it this way, I don't mean the top monk. The top meditative monk always understands study is very important. But unfortunately, it's because when you go to the doing meditation, they always tell you not to read. That's how they the meditated misinterpreted that meaning, thinking that, oh, because you don't ask me to read that thing. And sometimes they like to argue with the teacher with what they learn too. So, and the teacher say, okay, I'm fed up with this argument. Why don't you just do your meditation? And that's maybe somehow it become a wrong way to understand that actually the meditative monk do not study. But also it's true, some meditative monks definitely don't study too. So, and my rule, if I ask, I don't know whether that's a rule, because I don't agree with that. I know that if you're a monk, of course if a lay people might have a different idea, but if you're a monk, you cannot do meditate. When I say meditate, mean there's a format of meditation, say that sitting or walking, and you're bound to be really do something else, right? But I do not see the wrong with the study. Actually, even funny enough, when I remember I went to study one time, and then one person asked me, are you sure you do meditation all the time, and then why you want to go to study? Are you sure this is what you want? And I think a lot of people misunderstood many things. Then I asked him, but the funny thing is, I asked him is actually he's a lay person who support me a lot when I was in Taiwan. I asked him a question. I say, I'm sure you know the monks when you wake up, especially in China, in Taiwan, this normally in those days, not now. Okay, now change. Change what? Because when you wake up, the first thing they will read newspaper. You know, that's how the monk usually do. I mean, it's very common in general. I say, I'm sure that you saw a lot of monks when they wake up, they start to read newspaper. I mean, maybe they do after their prayer, but they definitely read newspaper. He said, yes. But I find very strange why you don't against, or why you do not, you ask them why the monk have read newspaper. He said, no, it's pretty good to read newspaper. But then why do you think that if they are going to study Buddhism, it will be far worse than read newspaper? He didn't know how to answer me. But my understanding is because the problem is that because it's true also, because maybe it happened that people learning Buddhism, so-called going to God college or whatever, I'm not saying it's true, but I just want to say you might have this impression of that is because, could that be because the people are learning the Buddhism in the wrong way? If that Buddhism learning in the correct way, it should be always helpful for a meditation, right? Because that's the whole thing about, that whole thing is belong to the essence of Buddhism, you know, the corpus of the Buddhism. So that's why I was saying, okay, he might be just, even though I don't think he buy completely, but he had no way to reply me, you know, with refute me with that logic. And this is my answer also. I guess it's sometimes the people get confused when they study Buddhism. Like now we are talking. Definitely this has nothing to do with meditation now. But this is a knowledge we need to know. Right? And maybe sometime in the next chapter, actually, we are talking about meditation, the next chapter. So, and then, and it's much to do with, do you learn it in the correct way? Because if you learn it in the correct way, you have better understanding of what they are, how they are, what kind of meditation are they, and what this meditation could help you, and also a lot of advice are in the Buddhist study too, you know. But like maybe put it in a simple way. I mean, nowadays there's a problem of some people. They thought when they could read the book, they have enlightenment, and which normally the professor in the university, I ask them, "Do you believe that you read enlightenment?" No, of course no. I'm just academic. I'm just learning it. But unfortunately, but in the Buddhist circle, it could have people thought maybe now I read a Buddhist text. And now I can understand what the text say, and somehow, indirectly or maybe directly, they believe they have reached a certain good state. But on the contrary, and that's why they always think that it is also true. Some professor maybe in certain, I'm not going to talk about professor. Otherwise, this will record also. But I'm just saying, no, I mean the record, we will put online. And I just want to say, the really people who study Buddhism, they know they just study Buddhism. It has nothing to do with the meditation. But the study, if they really study in the correct way, definitely will help them meditation. But not the way that lots of people misunderstood. Because they've seen a lot of these people happen, that they learn Buddhism, they thought they also practice Buddhism. You know what I mean? Okay. Because I guess this have to do with other religion system. Other religion system that once you read, for example, like, I don't mean they are all like that, but in general way of people behavior, like when you read the Bible and then when you understand the Bible, kind of like you are with the God like already, right? But this certainly is not it's just because logically you understand a thing. It do not mean your mentally or your spiritually could be reached that kind of state, you know. So, all right. Maybe the last thing is about, actually this is the last paragraph. And then they talk about what the lay people should do or should not do. I mentioned already. And the last is called a spiral schema called epitropic or karmic and nibbanic Buddhism. In other words, mean maybe in the modern society, according to the Spinoza's kind of socialism, not socialism, sociological idea. So you can understand Buddhism in three types nowadays, called the apotropic and or karmatic or the nibbanic. In other words, mean some people actually to be a Buddhist as a lay person, maybe even monk, but generally in the lay person, they could be apotropic. And it means because they believe when they practice Buddhism or when they come to temple, they have this, apotropic means they have this kind of what you call luck result, like all the evil you put away, okay, and then you will get the good luck. I think this is like very, very, very common. Is like people come to temple like during the ceremony, prayer and offering incense, that's called apotropic. Okay. And others are karmatic. Karmatic is more maybe involved in more like Buddhist knowledge there. Then they believe if they do the good thing, they will get a good result. They will have a 就是善有善报，恶有恶报. So they will. You could put that. I mean, like more like you could divide them like they don't really think much about whether it's luck or not, but they definitely believe in there was a karmic, going on there. Because if you have a good idea, then you will have a good future. If you have a bad idea, then you have a bad future, something like that. At least it's more like following the Buddhist teachings, but believing in the karma. So something like that. So in the Buddhist sense, if they really know well, less thinking about that because they come here to get a blessing and they will be blessed. If you go to Thailand or even if you have a chance to go any temple, you feel this is actually the apotropic. Perhaps in Theravada Buddhism is really a lot. Not only Theravada, all type of Buddhism is the same. So that they will come to the temple that they want to get kind of good luck, or if they have a bad any omen, then they can get some blessing or whatever, or even do a prayer so that those things will go away. And the last one, nibbanic, which is either the nibbanic is mean the lay person even they wanted to trying to be attain nibbana. Not that they really need to be nibbana, but at least they know. Or if at first I can follow like a monk, however much I can do, then I will follow nibbana. Of course, that refer to mean definitely will dedicate a lot to do meditation. Maybe. Even though here they didn't say much, but I would put it like actually even people who are the lay people who are really follow the karmatic way also, they might even do meditation because they know that will help them to have a better karma, to reborn in a better place by practicing meditation. Especially if you talk about if they really need to be attain nibbana, to become a saint. Because lay people in Buddhism, you can be a saint as well. Okay, it's not only restricted to the monastic members. So, but even though Buddhist saints have many levels, but however, you can be the first level saint, second level saint, third level saint. Only the last level is controversial a little bit. Okay. However, if you want to be saint, you still can as a lay. But then you could also just follow the nibbanic kind of Buddhism by practicing. Here, practicing means meditation. So this is how we conclude this chapter as a Buddhist community, to understand as a whole in a Buddhist community. How that community becomes up from India in general, and original what the idealism of the older monastic members, and then now even in ancient time what type of these orders are they, then to the lay people what the lay people duty is about, and what the primary thing they need to do is to get married. But even though within that also how the relationship between the monks and the lay people, because they are actually being as a supporter, and then the monks and the monastic or monastery become the place that they need to support in order to get married as a generosity, one of that generosity. And for the practice side, and the lay also actually could be divided into three kinds. Just we say apotropic, a lot of people are apotropic or the karmatic and the nibbanic. They follow any type of it, or some maybe I don't know, or they follow all type of it. Then we conclude all this chapter. Do you have a little question? If you know, then we will end the class first. Anything? Okay, I don't want to waste your time because it's a bit late. But anyway, I would just want to say the next chapter next week. Is it next week we're going to read it? Do we have class next week? After 2 weeks? So okay, we have a same time and please come, or maybe come early if you can. Then we have some tea first, and also then we have the topic on the Buddhist cosmos. This is really a big topic, very important, because how Buddhism understands cosmology. Actually, in general, the Buddhism understands cosmology is not only as in terms of as a material side, but it also connected to our consciousness always, and that answer a lot of questions about how Buddhism believes in reincarnation, and then why we can mention that we can be reborn to a different kind of cosmology, because the cosmology actually is directly linked to our consciousness. And then also the Buddhist cosmology is huge and vast. What are they, and so forth. And the next chapter, I don't know, I myself feel it maybe, because very few people, even though that's how Buddhism understand, but very few Buddhist texts offer this kind of, I would say, arrangement for people to understand. Actually, that's how the Buddhists link to cosmology and our consciousness. Okay, and this chapter, please, in order to please go back, and if you can, I definitely ask you to read as far as possible. Make some notes, a question. As I say, the question you could always raise here, or you can comment anything that you don't agree. You don't have to agree all the time, or whatever. Or you might have different understanding. You don't know what are they. If I can answer, I will answer. Or you can actually write to us, so that we can prepare better. So if you have really you think it's important, and you can write to her, you don't understand what it is, meaning that, All right. Oh, at the end, anyway, thank you for you coming for this class. After returning from Asia, we've been, stopped for having this reading for a certain time already. Anyway, I will see you after next week then. And thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Whew. Usually we do a transfer made by another monk. Today he has to go other place. Yeah.